religious science practitioner, and we're looking forward to listening to him today. So welcome, Ray.
So how is everyone today? Okay. So what I want to do is I want to start off with a reading from the Science of Mind. And just let this sink in, okay? Just let it sink in. So, the whole of spirit is potentially focused in our individual objective consciousness. But we have not yet evolved to a realization of this, except in a slight degree. We approach and contact the larger spirit through our own spirit or conscious mind. The doorway to the absolute stands open at the center of our intuitive perception. So I'm reading this, and any Bruce Lee fans in here? Okay, so there's this particular movie where it's actually Bruce Lee's final movie called Enter the Dragon. And there's this scene where he's teaching this young man about the grandness of life. And he says it's like a finger pointing to the moon. And the young man looks at his finger and he says, "Do not concentrate on the finger, or you will miss all of this heavenly glory." Now, what does that have to do with this? We have this grand scope of what life means. And when I say life, I don't just mean the living and breathing aspect of what our bodies do. I mean life, ergo, God. Because God, source, creation, is capital L life. The same way we refer to God as capital L love. So we miss the grandeur of life when we focus on the tiny little aspects of individual separation, scarcity, etc. Anybody remember being in kindergarten and you had show and tell? We're getting ready to have a moment of that. What is this?
Bread.
Bread. Now, I'm not showing you this because it's whole wheat. Whole, but it's bread. It's a slice of bread, right? Why didn't anyone say it's flour, sugar, yeast, eggs? Why didn't we do that? Because we don't see that. We see the wholeness of what that brought together. But we don't do that with our regular everyday lives often enough. Far more often, we separate each individual. We see something on the news. That's eggs. We see something or hear something on the radio, and that's flour. And we break it down into these individual things rather than stepping back far enough and saying, but there's only one. There's only one. And how I put the flour, the eggs, the sugar, the cinnamon together determines what I, through my consciousness, create. Because my thoughts formulate the recipe that formulates what I will experience and then ingest, digest, live, and breathe. So the challenge is, how do I take whatever experiences come before me? And let's backtrack a little bit. There's this aspect of what we talk about, what we do, that stays theoretical. And then there's the practical side of it. And both of them are meant to be part of what we do, how we experience life. Because if we moved throughout our all the time lives, knowing and speaking in terms of oneness, then this is what it would sound like on any given day. Hey God, How am I today as you, as me, showing up in this moment? Why am I asking you? Because I'm asking me, because I know that I am the I am. What's your name? I am. Oh, I am too. We would have no need for individual names, for individual clothing, for individual likes and interests, for different music styles, for different taste palettes. We would have no need for any of that if we were meant to always be only one. So we are supposed to also live and move and interweave with the knowing that diversity, that variety is part of this experience and meant to be enjoyed and celebrated. I asked some folks recently, any professional botanist in the room? We have one. So, if I were to ask, how many different types of or breeds of roses are there? Not just one, there are many. Now that's just roses. If I were to ask for other plants, flowers, tulips, ferns, the number goes on, and even something as simple as grass. There are different breeds or strains of just grass. And grass is this thing that I gotta mow the lawn. It's this thing to be mowed. Or occasionally this thing to lay out and sunbathe on. But when is it ever the thing that reminds us that's God showing up in all the many myriad of ways of grandeur? And that this blade of grass now becomes a sacred reminder of the allness that is. It's not just grass. A rose is never just a rose. One single hair on our head is not just one single hair on our head. So the moment we take a moment and step back and say, there's only one. And how many places and ways can I be reminded that there's only one? Because we're given reminders all the time. The thing is, we don't often take the reminder to say there's only one. Example, how many bones in the human body? A single body has how many bones? Has how many muscle fibers? Has how many red blood cells, white blood cells, tendons, nerve endings? There's all of this multiplicity just in our physical body temple to remind us that there's one finger connected to one hand, connected to one arm, connected to one torso, all together creating one body. One body with a friend becomes one community. One community becomes a neighborhood. One neighborhood becomes a city, state, nation, planet. One planet. Follow what I'm saying. We can start however small and go out and out. And we see that no matter how far we go, we're reminded that there's only one. But this process can go in reverse, because I can go back to the finger and then go very microscopic, and eventually I'm going to find molecules, and even deeper, atoms, and even deeper, quantum particles, waves. And then even beyond that, only source. So we have all of these reminders that there's only God, and you're it. In this breath. So we have this reminder that there's this finite thing called life. And there's this finite stuff called stuff. So if I say, everyone, for a moment, inhale. And then exhale. Now there's a moment you inhale and you go as far as you can till you have to stop. That's finite. And then you exhale till you can no longer exhale and you have to stop. And in those stopping points, from here, the exhalation is out, and there's a pause. The inhalation, and there's a pause. But right in the middle, there's a pause between those two, inhale, exhale. And those three pauses remind us in this place, there is stillness. And in that stillness is infinity and forever. And that forever and that infinity is merely another name for God. So even within this breath, we are reminded, finite and infinite. Forever exists right here with that breath. If we go within. Why in the Judeo-Christian Bible does Yeshua say, the kingdom of heaven is within? Go within. Go within. Go within, and you will realize that you are far more than you can even imagine. How many times have we heard people say things like, if money were not an issue, if fear were not an issue, if your past baggage, blah, 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 were not an issue, what would you do? And we imagine stuff. Whatever that is, understand that that's finite. Because the moment we plug in, remember what this said, that we have not yet caught up to or stepped into the full realization of what it means to be the I am. Because if we really stood in that moment, we would have no need, in essence, we would have no need to be in the body anymore. So the fact that we are still in the body says that we have this wiggle room of life that we are meant to experience, meant to play within. So what do we do? If fear were not an issue, money were not an issue, baggage was not an issue, that vision, that goal, that dream, stepping into the realization to say, I know there's even more. And there's even more. And there's even more. There is never a moment where there is never more. There is always. See, our minds can't grasp the concept of infinity. I mean, we can theoretical, we can mumbo jumbo it to a certain degree, which is why we go into meditation, which is why we treat. Because in those moments, it allows us to step beyond the finite constraints of humanity. And in those moments, we may have lucidity of, I can grasp what forever means. I can grasp what agape, love without condition. I can grasp what that means. I can almost taste it. Like it's right there. And then we come out of meditation, and then we have to go about our lives. Which is why we are reminded to be in the world, but not of it. Go about your daily life, but understand that you are far more than just whatever it is you say. So when someone says, describe yourself to me, tell me about yourself, and we give a litany of labels. I'm a father, grandfather, I'm African American or black, depending on which term you choose. We go through, I'm 5'10", I weigh 165 pounds. Like, we go through this list of things. And none of those are really who we are in totality. Because if I asked you to give me the list of everything that you are, you would never stop talking. Because you have to give me things that you normally don't give to people. We normally say, well, I'm a father, I'm a grandfather. I'm 50 years old. When do we ever say, I'm human? When do we ever say that? It's understood. I may, hey, Skippy, did you know I'm human? Did you know? Like, we may do that with the dog, because the dog may not know. But we know with each other. We know, so we don't do that. But there's an aspect of, if we really went there to go through all of what we are, I have to describe, I'm a mammal. Like, I really have to go through all, we would never stop talking. So right there is another example of infinity. There is far more to what we are than just these labels, just these names. So our charge is, our call is, with each breath, with each step, to be reminded as much as possible, I am the I am. I am the I am. Now, let's ask this question. How many parents are in the room? Okay. Do you have in your mind at every single moment in a 24-hour period that you are a parent? It comes to your mind when it needs to come to your mind. Because if that was in the forefront of your mind all the time, there's a lot of other things we wouldn't be able to function and do. So there are moments when this is what comes before me. The glasses of, I'm a parent. The glasses of, I'm an artist. The glasses of, we have all of these various glasses, or all of these various hats that we wear when they are needed. In much the same way, we don't think about our elbow until we do something. Ow, hit my funny bone. Ow. And now we're reminded, funny bone is in the elbow, I have an elbow, and right now it hurts. But we don't think about it until we have a reason to. How often do we think about how many teeth are in here? Till one of them hurts. How often do we think about anything in this body temple as, I was asking somebody the other day, do you know where your liver is? Like you're really up here. Let me show you a biology book. Like we don't know. And for the most part, I don't really need to know. That's what doctors are for. You know, you went to school as long as you know. So if I need to come to you, you're not digging in here for it. Like you know. But it is important for us to understand that there's this entire organism that is body, mind, and spirit. And that it is all working together even when we aren't conscious of it. Wayne Dyer used to say, we don't breathe us. We don't make, we drink, we don't make the fluid or the food go from our mouth to our esophagus to our stomach. The body does it. But what gives the body the knowledge or the ability to do so? We can control aspects of our breathing. I can choose to take a longer, deeper inhalation, or I can choose to breathe more shallow. But I can't choose to, you know what, it's Monday, I don't feel like breathing today. I can't do that. In essence, I can't do that. Or I'm going to take a swim and I'm going to keep on breathing underwater. Without gills? Yes, because I could do that. There are certain things that because we are being breathed, we are being moved in the mind of God. It's important for us to, as often as we can, that's why, once again, meditation and prayer. Because it's our opportunity to say, my battery is a little low. Let me plug in. Because that ability is always available to us. Always. So anytime we watch the news and we feel disgruntled about what's coming up, oh wow, it's in a couple of days. There's, boom, wall of disconnect. Plug in. Realizing that that mold on the corner of the bread is still part of the bread. And that mold can become medicine if treated correctly. Because many years ago, who would have thought, oh, it's mold, ooh. Till someone said, well, wait a minute, if I take that mold and do this, this, and this, I can create penicillin. And penicillin can be used to cure infections. So from this thing that is fuzzy, wuzzy, and hairy, that I'm not going to eat, I can use to save a life. But I have to be plugged in, tuned in, tapped in, to be able to see that. So in this grand scheme of things, you're whole, perfect, and you're complete. We say that. You're whole, you're perfect, you're complete. and you're a work in progress. So how is that? If I'm whole, and I'm perfect, and I'm complete, and I am, then how am I also a work in progress? Now, the example I give people when they ask me that is, anybody familiar with martial arts? Specifically Japanese martial arts. You get a belt, right? You start with a white belt, then a yellow belt, an orange belt, and you progress through the rainbow till you get a brown belt and a black belt. And those colors are an American invention. In Japan, they don't do that. In Japan, they do a white belt. And then you train and you train and you train and you train and you train till the white belt is now dirty and it becomes gray. And you train and you train and your instructor watches you and watches you diligently. And now they realize this belt is a symbol of how long you've been doing this. And now your belt, which has become gray over years, you are now switched out with a black belt. And you train and because you don't stop, I'm a black belt, I'm done. And you leave, you continue training. It is a way of life. And now the master, the black belt, trains and trains and trains till the black belt now grows older and now fades and becomes gray and frays and becomes white. You are a master forever. Eternally the student, always the beginner. However you want to phrase it, that is how we are whole, perfect, and complete. And a work in progress. So that everything that happens to us, every experience, every anger, every fear, every worry, every whatever it is our opportunity to take the mold of or the infection of whatever that is and say, I'm the alchemist who has the opportunity of transmuting this pain, transmuting this illness, transmuting this disgust or disdain or whatever it is, and turning it into something that not only transforms my life, because the person that created penicillin didn't just do it so, penicillin, I'm healed. Like it wasn't just for them. It was so that others could benefit from it. So every time we heal our own selves, it can't help but to heal those in the greater body. I used to wonder as a child, how is it that I can have a headache and take an aspirin and the aspirin knows where to go? Like, how does the aspirin know? Boom, we're in the body. Okay, so the headache, where's the headache? Okay, I'm going north because that's where the headache is. And that little aspirin dissolves and starts climbing its way to my brain and starts looking for whatever headache looks like. That's not the way it works. The aspirin goes throughout the entire organism and finds wherever that pulse is, that pain, and the aspirin says, it's okay, it's okay. Shh. So the aspirin is in fact actually healing the entire body. Every thought that we have of healing, every thought that we have of oneness and unity and love and compassion is healing the entire organism of humanity. So watching the news, can I send love and heal humanity? Can I send compassion when I go home for Thanksgiving and the family does what they so unlovingly love to do? Can I still, namaste mom, namaste brothers, namaste aunts, uncles, and cousins, can I truly see the divine in them, though they can't see it for themselves? Because remember what I told you the last time I was here? Remember what I said happened while I was walking down Constitution Avenue? Anybody remember? Anybody not remember? Okay, real quick. So I'm walking down Constitution Avenue in D.C., and a pickup truck drives coming from behind me to beside me and then in front of me. And as it's coming up behind me, I hear the N-word. My mind zones, because I'm like, and then until it's beside me and I hear it more directly and I realize, they're talking to me. And then it pulls up and there's a red light and they get stopped at the red light. And I simply stop. And what I told people was, in that moment, I am so happy and grateful that I did not have my telekinetic abilities because I probably would have flipped the truck. So I'm really glad that I didn't have that, because what it forced me to do was say, Anderson, what are you? Not who are you. What are you? Are you love? Because you say it. Can you do it? And so I froze in that moment, and I breathed until I could remain calm enough to say, I forgive you, not for you. I got to forgive you for me. And I have to know for you what you in this moment don't know for yourself. And then let them and bless them on their way. And then go my way. Because if in that moment, and it's, like I said, it's challenging, it's hard, but in that moment, if I would have held and harbored disgust and anger and venom, it wouldn't have touched them. The venom that I was choking on would have been the venom of my own consciousness. And if the venom of my consciousness stays in my consciousness, sooner or later, it's going to sift into yours, and then yours, and then yours. So once again, when whatever comes before us, simply doing whatever our spiritual practice is, and reminding ourselves, I know who I am. I know what I am. And I know that what I am is not just one single, solitary, individual human who was born here, who is going to die here, who has this amount of money in their bank account, who has this number of degrees, who has this. That's not me. What I am is the vastness of creation showing up in human form. What I am is the I am that chose to manifest as a 5'10", 165-pound African-American man. I am Source. I am the I am God, I am whatever you want to call it that is most comfortable for you. But reminding yourself as often as you can, I know who I am, I know what I am. Because if we know who and what we are, then we know what is ours to do. Because if you know that you are already sacred, already holy, already love in human form, then the only thing that becomes yours to do is to love. The only thing that can come from you is joy and peace and power and prosperity, magnificence in every experience, so that when you walk into Target or you go into Dunkin' Donuts, the very presence that you bring with you changes and transforms not just the other people, the actual space, so that even when you leave, this is my last thing, how many times have you ever walked into a room and nobody's there? You walk into a room, somebody maybe at the counter, and you walk in and I know that perfume, I know that cologne. They're not there anymore, but they left their scent. Can we leave our vibrational scent of love in the very walls of the spaces we enter, in the very floor and foundation of the places that we walk, knowing that the ground upon which we walk is already hallowed ground, but can we reignite the very light in the atomic structure of everything that we step our feet on, and everywhere we go, we leave rose petals for others to walk on and recognize their divinity. Let's treat. Simply in this moment of allowing myself to be breathed, I acknowledge and I recognize that this breath, this sacred ruach, the breath of God, the breath of Source, is breathing me. And as I relax into this being breathed, I know that God is all there is. There is only one. One power, one presence, one infinite mind. And the truth of this power is it is magnificence, it is love itself, joy itself, peace and power itself, omnipresence, omniscience, and omnipotence itself. And if it is all there is, then it must also be showing up in me, with me, moving through me, and showing up as me. And because it is not showing up in isolation, what I know is that it is also showing up for and in and with and as each and every one of us as well. And that as I turn my gaze to this source, recognizing it in myself and in others and in the world, that I become more and more loving in expression, joyful in expression, creative, transformative, that everyone that I see and that everyone who sees me sees the face of God, that everyone that I hear and everyone who hears me hears the voice of God, that everyone I touch and everyone who touches me touches the hand of God. Because I know that that is what I am here to do, to be source in expression. So with gratitude in my heart, thanksgiving in my mind, and appreciation in every cell of my being, I speak these words knowing that they are not the words of Raymont speaking, but are the words of the I Am speaking of and about itself. And that this truth is not just truth for me, but it is truth for every one of us. Knowing that there is no man, no woman, no situation, no candidate, no political party, no illness, no anything that can ever separate, denounce, decay, or destroy our oneness with and as God. So gratefully I speak these words and I release them, knowing that they are already fully formed in the mind of God. Because the mind that I use is the mind of God. And in that mind it is already done. I release them knowing it is already so. And together we say, and so it is.